Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another direct to YouTube special. This one brought to you by Domenico P, who donated to see, and I quote, the best legacy burn deck possible. Alright, so if you have seen Legacy Burn played before, and you don't care about the details of what the burn deck list looks like and why it looks like, feel free to jump directly to gameplay, but we're going to do a deep dive about why I'm playing the burn deck list that I am, because it's actually pretty interesting. Alright, let's start with the mana base. This deck is just playing 20 mountains. It is not currently playing any fetch lands. There's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, Stifle is pretty popular in the format right now, and if you're keeping a 1 or maybe a 2 land hand as burn, losing one of your lands is disastrous. I don't want to go there. Reason number two is that many of the things that made fetch lands good are no longer seeing play in the deck list. Grim Lavamancer is not particularly popular at the moment, and Searing Blaze, that has a landfall effect, has sort of fallen out of favor for Searing Blood instead. And then we have a split between mountains and snow-covered mountains to play around Predict a little bit more, because when your opponent is playing Predict, you do not want to have 20 of the same name card in your deck. It feels real bad. All right. Of the rest of the cards in the main deck, there are essentially 8 slots, in my opinion, in what the deck looks like right now. The 4 Price of Progress and the 4 Exquisite Firecraft. I consider, as does most of the rest of the community, most of the rest of the stuff here to be sort of like the stock aspects of the burn deck list. And then you have 8 slots to play around with to build the deck how you would like to build the deck. And the things that I have chosen are the ability to steal games and the ability to play through counter spells. So Exquisite Firecraft is 4 damage, which is a really good rate for, a single red card. 3 being kind of the average across most of these cards. And so, this is 4 damage to start with. And the Spell Mastery means that it is reach end game that just doesn't eat it to Force of Will or Force of Negation or Daze or Flusterstorm or what have you. And that sort of reach is really important. So that's thing number one, is that, I want to be able to beat these blue decks that, get shields up in the mid game. I just want to be able to say, 40 your dome, I want to end the game. And the other thing I want to be able to do is just steal games from nowhere. Sometimes the burn deck just runs out of resources in the early game, and you're not quite going to have enough reach to get there. And Price of Progress, not kidding, in some matchups will hit people for 8 to 10 damage, which is an insane rate for 2 mana. Now, what are the downsides of these cards that I'm playing? Well, Exquisite Firecraft is slow and does ever so slightly make you care about the graveyard. And Price of Progress is a sort of high risk, high reward card. The floor for this card is that it does 0 damage. And when you draw a 0 damage card in your burn deck, that's disastrous. But the ceiling is just the highest possible ceiling of any card that you could possibly play. There are some people who don't like the variance of Price of Progress. And so if you want to minimize that variance, there are other things that you can be thinking about doing. Skewer the Critics is another sort of 1 mana red burn spell that sometimes sees play, but it's a little bit inconsistent and slightly clunky. And I don't want slightly clunky in my burn deck. I want my opponent dead. Lately, there are sort of 2 newish cards that have been seeing some play. Roiling Vortex is one of them, and it's one that I have in my sideboard. The idea with Roiling Vortex here is that you go and use it to disrupt Uro. But in talking with a lot of people on the Burn Discord and just kind of through my own observations, playing 2 of Roiling Vortex in game 1, I don't think means you consistently beat Uro anyway, right? Because it's a 2 of that you have to have when your opponent also has the Uro, and you need to get that into play before the Uro gets into play, because them gaining 3 or 6 life might be the make it or break it point for this game. And so I decided not to include this in game 1. So we're at least theoretically a little softer to Uro in game 1 than some of these other decks. The other thing that has been seeing a decent amount of play in Burn that's kind of new is Bone Crusher Giant. And this is just a good red value card that lets you grind a little bit it lets you answer a creature and then still come back and deal some damage later. And the trigger on Bone Crusher Giant is also relevant to go and like drain people out for those final points of damage. So I have opted to make myself a little bit worse against Uro in game 1, and maybe a little tiny bit worse against something like Storm, because Rolling Vortex is, whenever opponent casts a spell. All right, let me rephrase that. It will make you a little bit worse against. Blah. All right, long day. Roiling Vortex's triggered ability can randomly go and gain you a lot of percentage points against certain decks. And I lose out on those percentage points against those decks. But I think I like where this main deck ended up. As far as the sideboard goes, I'm a big fan of sideboards for burn decks having lots of 3-ofs. Like, I feel like the burn deck needs to answer very specific things and try to ignore a lot of stuff. And I see a lot of burn decks being built with these kind of like situational 1 or 2-ofs, and you're not going to draw those cards at the right time. So if you want certain effects, you need to be packing a lot of them. So I have a Roiling Vortex alongside 2 Pyrostatic Pillars. And those give me 3/2 CMC, sort of like taxing hateful permanents. I have a Roiling Vortex and then 2 Sulfuric Vortex. That gives me 3 things that go and hate on Lifegain, such as Uro. I have 3 Smashed Smithereens for artifacts. I have 3 Graft Digger's Cage for the unfair combo decks, and maybe Uros even in some matchups. And then I round things out with a couple of additional burn spells in the form of Searing Blood and a couple of Pyroblasts as catch-alls for decks that we're just going to be really bad against. So that is a lot of words to say, like, this is what I think the best burn deck looks like conceptually. Now, I haven't gone into leagues and played to test this yet, but this is kind of conceptually where I'm at, how I think the deck should look and why it looks this way. I chatted, I don't know, for probably about 2 hours with some folks on the Burn Discord, kind of like thinking about how this deck should look. And this was kind of a happy medium between a lot of their builds, and I'm pretty happy with how this deck list looks. Let's battle, and let's see how this deck feels in action. You know, Uro is one of the best cards in the format. Can we still fling lightning bolts at people's faces and expect them to die? I hope so. And if you made it this far into the deck tech, please consider throwing me a like before we get started. That sort of thing helps out with the analytics a lot. This is a great looking burn hand to me. We have 2 lands, we have a couple of 1-drops, we have an Eidolon, which is, objectively one of the better cards to have in your opening hand as a Burn Mirror? Oh, Goblins. Okay. Sorry, got excited for a second there. This Goblin Guide is unlikely to get in any points of damage after this turn, so if I want any points of damage out of this Goblin Guide, I need to fire this thing into the red zone right now. My opponent has Pyrokinesis in game 1! Nice Mountain, nice Pyrokinesis. Alright, if I want to use my mana this turn, I have to use it on Lightning Bolt since it is an instant, and my other cards aren't. We'll fire this off. This does make us worse against a Goblin Lackey that comes in off of this vial, but, say la vie, so it goes. I actually don't mind drawing that land. Okay, there's a Goblin Lackey on top of the library. My opponent gonna Pyrokinesis a Goblin Guide? No, okay. Goblin Guide has done its job and, like, gotten in 4 points of damage. Anything from here is just absolutely gravy. Alright. You have it? Oh no, it's just a Skirk Prospector. Now that card is obviously quite good. But our opponent is very close to dead. So they're at 10, which really means they're at 6. So if I get another Goblin hit in, which I don't think I will, but if I do, Exquisite Firecraft plus Fire Blast is lethal. Yep, you can port me. That's fine. Awkward. So my opponent didn't play Goblin Lackey, which maybe means they'll pitch it to a Pyrokinesis. I don't think I can play another Goblin Guide here and just like walk into the Pyrokinesis that hard. I think I'd try to just crash in with one Goblin Guide here and then play an Eidolon post-combat. If my opponent has black in their deck, okay. Yeah, so they pitched the Goblin Lackey to Pyrokinesis like I thought was going to happen. My opponent has black in their deck. I have to start worrying about Goblin Matron into Sling Gang as a way for them to gain life. Alright, that's not black mana. Every spell that my opponent casts is awesome for me. The double Rishadan Port is definitely doing work against my Exquisite Firecraft. This could just be a Muxus. Nope. A Gem Palm Incinerator. I could technically Fire Blast a creature in order to avoid this, but I don't think that's actually good. This Fire Blast needs to go Dome. We have to keep the eye on the prize here. Don't need to milk that much more damage out of my opponent. Or Lackey is fine. Opponent only has one card left. Yep, that's good. That's another Goblin Matron. Okay, nice. Quite happy with that trade. So I have not seen black cards from my opponent yet. My opponent has game 1 Pyrokinesis, which might be an indication that they are playing a mono red version. Alright. Yeah, I don't like this. This could be the Sling Gang. Yet. Alright. The game got a lot harder. 12. Alright. Do I use an exquisite firecraft on Sling Gang Lieutenant? Or do I just try to go face, face, face with these 3 spells? This is where things start to get a little bit tricky. Because if my opponent doesn't draw another creature, exquisite firecraft, exquisite firecraft, exquisite firecraft, firecraft, fire blast is lethal. But if my opponent does draw another creature, it's not lethal anymore, and I assume that the Goblin Guide doesn't really get in there. I think I'm supposed to force them to make decisions about like how many creatures they are going to sacrifice and how much life they want to gain before I attack in with Goblin Guide, and then maybe I can get 2 points of damage in with Goblin Guide. This game is quite intricate. Oh, that's all you're doing? I thought I was going to see more than that. Interesting. I'll send this. God damn it. Well, this league is going to be amusing, if nothing else. That stings. I don't think the second Sling Gang is stock either. Ugh. Yeah. Damage report. I don't think I win this if I just Fire Blast that. Here. Well. The Wasteland's currently up, so my opponent can Wasteland themselves to save damage. If I create a world where that Wasteland taps itself. Present Progress is only worth 2 damage right now, assuming opponent knows to Wasteland themselves. We just have to fire off another Exquisite Firecraft at this Sling Gang, and then hope that I can mise a Price of Progress win. Probably. Doesn't feel good. Like, I'm sitting with theoretical lethal in hand, but this is stopping that from being realistic. I also just can't leave this on the board because it represents sort of a double strike aspect where my opponent can like attack with everything and then drain me and leave me dead or very close to dead. Opponent has been maybe more conservative with their life gain than I would have been. I probably would have sacked more creatures. Oh, just whiff. Nice. Yeah, so now if opponent like doesn't play a land and double ports me, I have 10 damage. They don't hold up Wasteland. I can feel it. Wind potential. Opponent is now thinking about holding a creature back for Goblin Guide. I'm not gonna float mana to just incentivize them to port again. Fuck yeah! Get Price of Progress! God, this is fucking my new fetish. What a game. Okay, as far as sideboarding goes, against something like Goblins, we're probably only going to sideboard minimally. I definitely want the Searing Bloods. And beyond that, I don't know that I want too many cards. The Exquisite Firecrafts are not great versus Rishadan Port in particular. And I don't think I get to do something like Sulfuric Vortex or Pyrostatic Pillar that hurts both of us, because my opponent can just punch me in the face pretty hard. So the next thing I want to think about is, like, do I want Smash to Smithereens, which has exactly 4 targets in the entire deck, the 4 Ether Vials. Smashing Vial is insanely good, but drawing a dead card is insanely bad. On the draw, I do think some of my creatures lose out on some of their potency, so I can consider boarding down on maybe Monastery Swift Spears. So if I board down on creatures when I'm on the draw in particular, I could play the Smash to Smithereens and the Searing Bloods. And then I think when I'm back on the play, I'm just going to want all my creatures. Okay. This is a borderline hand. I have a lot of gas. I have multiple cards in my hand that answer a Goblin Lackey, and I have something that answers an Ether Vial. I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand. I really want a second land so that Rishadan Port doesn't bully me, but we can't necessarily have it all. All right, let's see what the opponent's up to after their mulligan. Wasteland Vial? Okay, we've got a smash. Let's just draw a land in our top 2 cards. Oh no. Okay. I was not anticipating my opponent bringing in Thorns. It's really good to know about those. Now my Exquisite Firecrafts feel real bad. I think I need to play around a Goblin Lackey here. I just think I need to answer that if my opponent has it. They do not. Since they do not, I think I'm comfortable just... Do I need to fire off a Bolt at their face? What does Bolt at their face accomplish that waiting doesn't? Probably nothing. Alright. DNT has more, like, Ether Vial ticking up. Like, threat level increasing things than Goblin does in terms of, like, interaction. All I'm saying, though, is that, like, if we can get these tapped, a Price of Progress will look spicy. Matron will probably go find the Sling Gang. My opponent is hesitating. They might need a more proactive Grenzo. Interesting. Alright, land is great. Quick damage count. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I am currently representing lethal damage, assuming that I can cast all of my spells. Operating under that assumption, which one of these two cards is it more important for me to blow up? Probably the Thorn of Amethyst, sadly. Because I need to be able to cast these exquisite firecrafts, and I preferably also need to be able to cast multiple spells. So I am just going to go ahead and pass the turn here with Smash to Smithereens up. If my opponent happens to have another Thorn of Amethyst, I really also just need to answer that. Actually... There's a very fringe world in which my opponent can destroy their own artifact using something like a Trash Master or a Tuk Tuk Scrapper, in which case I want to blow this up now. So this could mean that my opponent could play an Ether Vial or another Thorn for 1 less mana. But in a scenario where every point of damage counts and I only have like 3 points of damage to spare currently, I think I'm good with making that play. Sure, a snow-covered mountain, a Goblin Guide. All right. Sure. Nice. Dome. I really kind of hope that my opponent does not spike a Fire Blast off the top of my library and then like have another mountain. That sort of thing could be awkward for me. Ah, shit. That sort of thing can also be awkward for me. I might be able to power through that. Yeah, I theoretically have enough damage to power through that. We'll see. The Grenzo goading can put things into weird spots. Oh, the Price of Progress that I telegraph. That's mighty interesting. Well, my opponent did me the service of taking that off the top of my library, and then they just milled away a whole bunch of lands. 4 different lands. Do I tell my opponent to cast the Price of Progress? Alright, so my opponent is viling things in now rather than later. That is wise. Otherwise, like, if I Exquisite Firecraft them and then I tap the vial in response, I could just kill them. Alright. 2, 4, 6, 7. Probably 8 guaranteed damage. Is there a way that I survive this? Okay, so if my opponent sacrifices 3 things, they put me to 8. Then they have 2, 4, 6, 8 lethal damage in play. So is there a way that I can navigate this that I don't die? uh, Chain Lightning the Sling Gang and just see how much they do. The issue is that I can only do 7 damage afterwards, so like the scenario in which Chain Lightning Sling Gang and then like Lava Spike them, Fire Blast them works, like that's very few and far between. Hard for me to stay alive. I'm not sure that there's a great winning line here. I think my opponent is just a little bit too far ahead. If I don't do anything, I'm just dead. If I just point spells directly at their dome, I only have 8 or 10 damage, neither of which represents lethal. Yeah, I think there's some weird world where this can result in me winning, but it's hard. Now if they just sacrifice the Sling Gang, I'm at 6. Now my opponent has 6 points of power in play. So I need to play towards winning next turn. That means surviving this combat. That probably means playing this creature. So much math. Did you come here for a grindy burn? I hope you did, because that is sure as heck what's happening right now. I have 11 points of damage in hand. So maybe opponent casts something pre-combat. I get 2 damage out of Eidolon. Yes. Ooh, that's not a cast. Yeah. Okay, so this is 6 damage. I could Fire Blast in order to survive. Then I go down to 4. Not even Price of Progress plus Lava Spike. Gets me out after that. All right. Fought hard that time. Didn't quite work out. Now that I know about the existence of Thorn of Amethyst, maybe I need to keep all those smashes in. Monastery Swift Spears become more attractive on the play. I think the Exquisite Firecrafts becomes slightly less attractive on the play, considering my opponent's Thorns also. Price of Progress is in a weird position as well. I want my creatures back in when I'm on the play. My opponent has told me that they're boarding up to 4 sling gangs in game 3. Alright, how do I want to play this? There are some other cute things that I can do that will punish my opponent's non-ether vial hands, but they'll also hurt me a lot. I think I need most or all of these creatures. Maybe if my opponent is going to play around it to some extent, I board down one of these. Oh, it's not called converted mana cost anymore. It's called mana value now. That's right. That's why that looks different. Yeah, I think I'm happy enough with this play draw configuration. It's possible that, like, I should not price of progress, but my opponent's deck has so many non-basics. I would like to play first. I would also like 2 basic lands in my opening hand. Hell yeah. This is aggressive. Hopefully we don't get shit on by Pyrokinesis. Because that's the card that will ruin this hand. My opponent will just, like, take out 2 Goblin Guides on turn 2 and get way ahead. But, like, this is such a constant stream of damage that, like, I'm very happy with how this hand looks. Battle, 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 battle. Alright, I've given my opponent a land. I am a generous god. Yeah, take that damage. Send him. Given my opponent a Cavern of Souls, as well as a Mountain. Just giving him a stream of cards. I might just outpace this Ether Vial. Yeah, my opponent has said woof in chat. Yeah, and is good. Opponent might just, like, straight up die next turn. 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, opponent can die next turn. That might represent a munitions expert because I know that they have a mountain that they could play. Okay. Oh, pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis. Oh, same pyrokinesis. Never mind. Got so excited for a second there. Sure. You may deal 1 damage to my Goblin Guide. This is just lethal, right? 3, 6, 7, 8. More than 8. Very nice. What a game. Are you familiar with Schrodinger's burn hand? It's a burn hand that either does a shit ton of damage or no damage, and that's the sort of hand that I've kept. This hand is either going to draw a land and go absolutely batshit insane, or I'm not going to draw a land and I'll have a somewhat clunky-ish start that has great endgame inevitability, probably due to Price of Progress. Ancient Tomb, yeah, Price of Progress is going to do work. It also doesn't super matter if we get Chalice of the Voided, given how this hand looks. Chronosphere would suck, though. Damn it. That's okay. Like, we have 4 points of burn per turn. Ah, the old 3 mana Chrome Mox. That stings a bit. Alright, we've given our opponent a Spirit Guide. Opponent's down to 10. Price of Progress looking less good than I might have wanted it to look. That's okay. Do I attack? Attacking might draw my opponent a land. I don't really care about that. But if I attack, I can potentially get in for more damage later. But if I attack and lose this, and my opponent plays a Planeswalker, I lose the ability to attack it. Who am I kidding? I'm not killing a Planeswalker with a Goblin Guide, just dealing 2 a turn. Yeah, I'll fire on in. Alright. We'll hang out. At this point, my Monastery Swiftspear is probably my weakest card. I'll just discard that. We're on a 10-turn clock. We should draw a land before that. Good. Let's discard this and plant the idea that my opponent should be thinking about it, because I very much have 10 points of... Alright, opponent will not think about it. Because we very much have 10 points of damage without anything else. Come on, land. There's 18 of you left. Come hang out. Have a good time. That's fine. I guess that was a reason to keep Rift Bolt, but I still have lethal damage through Chalice. Sometimes it's like this. Okay, that's fine. Swear to God, if we just get 10 turn clocked by a Simian Spirit Guide, I'm going to be so very sad. We still have lethal through Chalice on 2. Alright. Quick math check. I burn you for 4. I get attacked. I burn you for 4. I get attacked. I'm at 2. I fire blast you. You're dead. I don't need to remove this critter. Now, opponent could just like draw something like a Bone Crusher Giant or something like that and ruin me. Yeah. So now, even if I remove one of these, I die. Unfortunate. I'm just 2 points of damage short here. Any one other spell does it. Oop. I needed to fade that draw. Because if they get this draw the next turn, I win at 1 instead. Well, we almost beat Trinisphere Chalice, so I consider that a victory of sorts. Alright, we'll probably go Price of Progress out. My opponent has a lot of non-basics and the ability to play around it. I will probably Searing Blood in. I will probably Smash to Smithereens in. I would also theoretically like to adjust my mana, my mana distribution a little bit to better play around Chalice. That is maybe more important to do on the draw than on the play. If I just like trim one Monastery Swift Spear. I think I'm fine with this for an on the play game. On the draw, when Chalice of the Void might come down on 1 and ruin my plans, I might want to change things a little bit more. Good hand is good. I will keep this. We have less theoretical damage than I might like, but I just have the ability to play around like Chalice and Trinisphere pretty well. And so like this hand has a ton going for it in that regard. Even though we only have like theoretical 3, 6, 10, 11, 12-ish damage. We want to fire off Chain Lightnings early in this matchup because like everyone forgets this, but this spell can be redirected. Okay, I think I just go ahead and get this down here and then play the Smash the following turn. There's a very specific punish of a Chalice on 2 as a follow-up that can hurt that, but outside of that punish, I would rather have my persistent damage source in play early. What? You did not make mana. Oh boy. Dome? Go to the dome? Nah, I think I'll hold up Smash this turn. Let's just get that Chalice out of the way. Or do I straight up smash this fucking Chrome Mox? I think I just smashed the Chrome Mox. That's a saucy play. Let's do it. Just keep my opponent from casting cards. Yeah, that looks like it was a good play. Happy enough with that play. Nice. All right, how do I want to adjust for post-sideboard games? Or not post-sideboard games, games on the draw. Things that get countered by Chalice of the Void become a little bit worse, but I do also just have to respect my opponent having creature-based openers, which means the like Pyrostatic Pillars, Roiling Vortex, Sulfuric Vortex sort of cards are a little risky. But I don't super like Monastery Swiftspear on the draw, I don't think, because like A, there's Chalice, and B, my opponent has a bunch of 2/2s that they can play and just gum up the board, and then this can't naturally attack in for 1 on turn 1. So let's see if we can find 3 other cards that I want to play. Sulfuric Vortex? Roiling Vortex? Just bring back in the Price of Progress since my opponent wasn't playing around it and they played out their extra lands. But like there's 8 lands that I care about. If I stumble on mana, Sulfuric Vortex is bad. If I get Sulfuric Vortex on curve, it's fine. I am not super comfortable with how I want to board for the games on the draw. Sulfuric Vortex and the Pyrostatic Pillars are a little bit risky. But if my opponent is playing the control role, maybe they're fine. Yeah, I'm good with this. What on earth? That's your plan? Your plan is make a turn 1 Magus of the Moon against the mono red deck? I don't even think I want to remove that. Like, I don't want to give you your mana back. That's very strange to me. What is happening? Am I just gonna play like an Eidolon and it'll get Bone Crusher Gianted? I'm so confused. Yeah, I don't know here. Yeah, sure. Like I still got 2 damage out of my spell. Alright, how much direct damage do I have? I have 10 direct damage. I need to find 5 more damage this game. I might need to remove this Bone Crusher Giant to find time to do this. Like, I think I can Chain Lightning Bone Crusher Giant, take 2 while they're tapped out, play Eidolon, and then be okay taking some hits for 2 from Magus of the Moon. I can assume that Eidolon will get at least 2 damage in. If it gets 4 damage in, that brings me back to the point where I have lethal. Yeah. Or sorry, they're at 15. There's a world where I consider blocking here to, like, let them take damage off their own Ancient Tomb. Am I blocking with an Eidolon now? Probably blocking with an Eidolon. This is weird. Like, I actively want my opponent to have a Prison Priest piece to turn on my smash. I need that damage. That's annoying. I'm on a 2-turn clock. I have 7 points of damage. I need 6 more points of damage. If I remove this Bone Crusher Giant, I'm just a lot of damage away from actually killing my opponent. I think I need to just, like, let this go and actually try to kill my opponent. I can do that with 2 top decked, 3 damage or more burn spells, or by my opponent playing out an artifact. Alright. Alright, so now I need my opponent to play out an artifact. Shouldn't have played that land. Well, actually, that's maybe not entirely true. Play towards opponent playing out an artifact. Or remove a creature. I'll play towards them playing out an artifact. I think if I continue to play this game of, like, harassing their creatures, I just don't win. Ah, well, that can happen too. Alright, GG's. I don't think you're supposed to go all in on the Magus of the Moon on turn 1, but it certainly ended up working out here. Like, Magus into Bone Crusher, is a decent amount of pressure, and I had one blank card, and that one blank card was the difference between me, like, being able to win and not being able to win. Okay, 4 lands is a bit much for burn. If we take a look at what I can do here, at the end of turn 2, theoretically, I'll have done 2, 4, 5, 6 from the prowess, trigger, 7, 8, 9 damage, and then I'll have nothing left afterwards. And so even if I get in like 3 more the following turn, that's only 12. I think in game 1, I want to try to be a little bit more aggressive than this. Not double fire blast levels of aggressive, but this hand's pretty good. I will have to think about whether I do this or whether or not. More basic mountain, huh? All right. Well, here we go. Just mutually assured destruction. This is pod racing. There's a real world where I do think about just fire blasting that sucker. So they're gonna kill my persistent source of damage. A lightning bolt to me this turn. More after that. I have like lava dart and things to worry about later. Having waited this long, this is awkward because my opponent just like fire blasts me. It's bad for me to remove this here. It's also bad for me to go down to so few cards. I think I just have to let this go. Like, this is very good. But I have 7 of my opponent's 13 life accounted for, and I still need more off the top. I don't think I get to go after this creature. Monastery Swiftspear is going to body me, though. Ugh. Yeah, if I would have gone after the Swiftspear, this second one would have done dirty things to me anyway. I think I just need to top deck 2 burn spells in a row and kill my opponent. Oh shit, lava darts in the graveyard. I think I'm dead. I haven't mathed this out yet, but that's 3 damage to me. Oh, fuck me. Oh, God. Just... I have a family. Hmm. So, Fire Blast is actually worse than Lava Darting, right? Because with Lava Dart on this board, they gain 3 damage per mountain sacrificed because it's 2 from the prowess triggers and then another 1 from the Lava Dart damage itself. So playing Fire Blast was a mistake. It's a mistake that still results in me being dead unless I just Fire Blast one of their creatures, but I'm never coming back for that. So we will just move to the next game. So that Pyrostatic Pillar situation and probably okay. Crafter's Cage is weird. Like, this is something that does not deal damage to my opponent, but it stops Arclight Phoenix and Lava Dart and technically Faithless Looting Flashback. I was thinking about that. I want Pyrostatic Pillar. Do I Roiling Vortex them? That seems to shit on the whole, like, Lava Dart thing, but it'd be awkward with my own Fire Blast. Let's do it. It sounds fun. Searing Blood's probably fine. I don't know that I actually get to Grafdigger's Cage. Price of Progress is a dead card. Let's get those out of there. Exquisite Firecraft is slow. Maybe get that out of there. Like, we are all about going fast here. Yeah, I think I don't get to play Cage. A Roiling Vortex or Pyrostatic Pillar would be sweet to hit early, though. Those would probably do a lot of damage to my opponent. This is me being a worse prowess deck than my opponent with this hand. I don't think I get to keep this one. I don't feel great about this hand, but I don't get to be pickier than this, I don't think. And my opponent just picks off my creature here, and I end up in bad shape. Ah, another honorary prowess creature. I don't have enough raw damage to win this game. I think I need to take on the control role. I don't know that I have enough control elements to be the control role either, but it is what it is. I'm also going to hold this Rift Bolt. I don't want to advertise to my opponent that it's coming when I probably need to like tap out and kill a creature with it. I would put me at maybe sub 30% to win this game. Yeah. Don't have the mana required to do that, unfortunately. Alright, this one was not my round. I accept that. I have too many lands, my persistent source of damage crashed through. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn, draw a card. Alright, there's a lava dart in there that threatens to finish me off later as well. I wonder if my opponent will blow up all their lands to protect this. Oh, they were F6'd. They don't even get to think about that decision. Yeah. And I can't really answer this card because my opponent can just Lava Dart a couple of times and bring it back. Which is rough. Like, my opponent can just, like, Lava Dart, Lava Dart, Lava Dart, answer that. So... maybe I can catch them going all in on a couple of creatures and then... like, kill it in combat after they've sacrificed a bunch of their lands. Yeah, so I'm just going to take this hit. All right. And at least attempt to punish my opponent heavily for doing Arclight Phoenix-based shenanigans. Hmm. So I can redirect this. But if I get to redirect it, then they can redirect it back to me, which would not be great. Yeah, so I just have to let that go. Oh shit, that Chain Lightning wasn't at my Eidolon. Uh, yeah, I am on the wrong side of this match here. Like my opponent can just cast more spells than I can. Like plus I mulliganed and had a few too many lands here. But generally speaking, I think in this like pseudo mirror, my opponent is favored because they can do more damage with their creatures on average than I can. I don't necessarily think that this is the better burn deck in a vacuum because, like, obviously I'm not playing this version of the deck, but I think here their deck looks better than my deck does. But in the face of a pile of removal, this starts to look worse. And in the face of more bodies, this starts to look worse. Oh yeah, snap keep this hand. We have a turn 1 threat, a turn 2 threat, a turn 3 threat, and then two other burn spells that will get pointed somewhere at some point in this match. Um the Eidolons will probably deal us some damage as well, but as long as our opponent isn't another aggressive deck, I think that'll be fine. Given the way that my opponent is mulliganing, I think they're a combo deck. So, like, Eidolon is probably either going to win us the game or we'll die, and we'll kind of see where that goes. Scalding Tarn could be a blue-based combo deck, like maybe a Doomsday deck or something, or Show and Tell. Yeah, we're going to be pinning our hopes on a certain spirit. No shuffle. See how our opponent ordered their cards. This is a long pause. Oh yeah, you can absolutely daze that. We I'm just doing this no matter what this turn. Like, against unknown deck, I just need that in play. Blue-green Omni? Are you straight up a Delver deck that just mulliganed into Oblivion? With basic island? I think this is a time for this. Take 2 off my own spell. And then try to stick this. And hope that my opponent's life total decreases faster than my life total does. Cantrips are pretty much uncastable for my opponent. The worst thing that could happen is they just like play another giant Tarmogoyf. Would like to get another instant sorcery into the graveyard before I cast an exquisite firecraft so that it is uncounterable. Also just a little confused about like what's going on with my opponent's mana base over there. Basic Island is like definitely throwing me off a little bit. See? Slight nuisance. Alright, so I attack him with both of my creatures. Put my opponent to 6. Or they can go to 8, block one of my creatures. This is problematic. I think I need my opponent to block an Eidolon here. Okay. That makes it easier for me to cast multiple spells. Alright, so my opponent has 5, 8. Damage available to them. My Exquisite Firecraft is currently counterable, which is awkward. Because it's the card that I would like to use to end this game, but I also kind of need to cast 2 4-damage burn spells. Or have my Eidolon die in combat. So if I cast Exquisite Firecraft, I go to 10, I then go to 3, I get 1 more spell, a 4-damage spell will kill them, or Eidolon attacking in plus another spell will kill them. So they probably have to kill the Eidolon next turn. In which case, I think I would like to cast this now and hope I don't get dazed. Alright. Thin margins here. Or shit, I mathed that wrong, didn't I? Yeah, Tarmogoyf went up to a 5. So my opponent could have just attacked me for 8, leaving me at 2, and then I die to my own Eidolon trigger if I cast anything. Alright, how do I play this turn? Like, the big thing here is, like, do I play around days versus do I try to... No, the Monster Swift Spear isn't good. I think I do play around days. I Lava Spike and Lightning Bolt. And hope that my opponent doesn't have a counterspell. Didn't have a counterspell last turn, presumably. Okay, but a non-force of will counterspell is okay. Because if my opponent counterspells, it still does 2 damage. So I should now cast this Lightning Bolt in my opponent's upkeep. Actually, that doesn't matter. Yeah, that doesn't matter, because like if they have Force of Negation, I die either way. Alright, yeah. Alright. Ugh. Alright. My opponent punted that one, and I might have punted that one first, and they might have punted it back to me. But if my opponent attacked in with that True Name Nemesis, putting me to 2, I die to my own Eidolon trigger when I try to kill them. Alright, so I am playing against this presumably blue-green Delvery Tarmogoyf True Name Nemesis pile. I saw regular island, not snow-covered island, so I don't need to be thinking about Icefang Coatl. Tarmogoyf in particular is a little bit of a problem because it stonewalls my creatures while just being bigger than the threats that I play. And like just hitting hard. So how do I want to board? On the draw, I think I want to go down creatures. Although if my opponent's playing blue-green, they might not have that great removal for it. I think I want the Roiling Vortex for their counter spells. I think I feel confident about that. And then I'm not sure about some of this other like Pyrostatic Pillar, Sulfuric Vortex stuff. Like, I don't know to what extent they're going to be a control role versus to what extent they are going to play this Delver role. My Eidolons definitely felt a little awkward that time, so I don't know that I want more in the form of Pyrostatic Pillar. But if I want to board out some number of my creatures on the draw, like, this is the stuff that fills it. I don't know that I want to be playing Pyroblast. Is this enough for Uro? My opponent has Uro. Maybe this is enough when I don't know if they have Uro. Let's try this. Question mark. Hold on, didn't I have 2 Pyrostatic Pillars? Did have 2 Pyrostatic Pillars. One's in my deck currently. I'm not confident about my sideboarding here. Hand is a little land heavy. I think I'm going to mulligan. Double Fire Blast is awkward. This hand is not great. I don't know that this is a hand that wins. I can keep 10 points of burn, but no actual pressure. No recurring sources of damage. I think I like an aggressive 5 more than this. Alright, we will keep a 5-card hand. I think I'm going to be high rolling on Price of Progress and hoping that that does stuff here. Maybe play towards drawing another one of those later. Don't feel particularly good about this game. Alright, so at the end of the day, my opponent is Rug. Not the most conventional build, though. Possible I'm supposed to Rift Bolt on one, but unsure. I think I don't want them to, like, be able to use Counterspell mana this turn, so this turn I will just suspend the Rift Bolt. Lightning Bolt my face. Okay, sure. Price of Progress timing is going to be weird. I would like to cast Price of Progress this turn if I draw a land. It's a juicy Daze target, but right now, Price of Progress is worth 6 damage, and I think I just need to take that. I might not get a better opportunity than this where my opponent's Wasteland is tapped. Oh, wow, it just resolved. Super happy to see that. Alright, Tarmogoyf's big. Opponent has 6 points of damage per turn, meaning I'm going to be on a 3-turn clock. Sulfuric Vortex also a little awkward at this point. Yet this puts an Arcane into the graveyard. Oh wait, no, that's a subtype. Never mind. Not like Tribal. If I fire off the Bolt into Daze, probably, so that I can, like, just draw a land. Exquisite Fire. Well, Exquisite Firecraft already kills. No, if my opponent had a Daze, they would have dazed last turn. I'm gonna just take this damage now, or attempt to take this damage now, rather. While my opponent doesn't have Spell Pierce and Friends up. All right. Force of Will is now off as well. Sulfuric Vortex also does kill my opponent. My opponent could gain some life with an Uro and get back into a more stable range where not everything kills them. Lethal, uncounterable damage. Beautiful thing. Nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if I sideboarded for that one correctly. My opponent's build is also a little bit unique. Like, they have Basic Island and likely multiple True Name Nemesis if they saw them that early 2 games in a row. I don't know what I'm supposed to think about that. Okay. I have kept what I think is a slightly below average opening hand, but one that's not quite worth mulliganing. My Monastery Swift Spear is maybe not going to be the best of all Monastery Swift Spears here, because, Like, I have this Rift Bolt, which isn't going to offer immediate turn 2 damage with the Swift Spear, but I have a lot of potential damage due to this Price of Progress, and I do have an okay mix of lands and spells. This hand gets worse if I keep drawing mountains. Goblin Guide is a great draw. Although, like, given Marsh Flats, I think we're likely to lose a creature here. Maybe we'll be playing against my Dead Guy Witch deck, huh? That'd be cool. Plague Engineer. Undra. Maybe Espervile then? I mean, their mana base will eat them alive due to Price or Progress. Exquisite Firecraft is uncounterable for the late game, too. Fair. I really need more damage with this Monastery Swift Spear, so I'm going to make my Exquisite Firecraft counterable, unfortunately. I think this is the point where I never get damage with Monastery Swift Spear again. I don't think I can lose my 2 lands here to Fire Blast. Alright. Farming Prince is 2 life? 3 life? 3 life. See how opponent plays this turn. Okay. I can Price of Progress for 2, put my opponent to 8, Fire Blast them down to 4, put them to 2 afterwards. Which is really like them being at 5. Alright. I'm just going to cast this, because I can cast this without sacrificing my lands and still take this Meddling Mage off of the table. We'll save the Fire Blast. We can try to make it worth 2 damage on a future turn. We can't make it worth 2 damage right now. Well, sorry, 2 damage off Prowess, rather than the 1 damage off Prowess last turn. I feel like they know I have Fire Blast at this point. I've paused enough. I'm going to Fire Blast them in response here. Goblin Guide. Goblin Guide trades with the body over there. Good with that. Force of Will incoming. Not the best for me. They're going to want to leave the Charming Prince around to set up a Soul Herder blinking loop. Alright. My Swift Spears have been successfully brick-walled, at least for now. On the off chance that my opponent has some weird discard spell, I'm just going to play out my land. Also, I wish I could get rid of this, but I can't. I don't know if it's necessary to Source of Plowshares and Monastery's Swift Spear. The Source of Plowshares can be used on one of their own creatures for 2 or more life later on. I don't know if I like that play. It's like that 2 life is the difference between them being killed by, say, an Exquisite Firecraft or a Fire Blast and not. Alright, they have shut off that window. My opponent has Plague Engineer and Force of Will in hand, maybe? They could have put the Plague Engineer back. So I could have Force of Will blue card now. They don't have Force of Will blue card. I'm very favored now. Nice. Yeah, I just take these hits. There's this Savine's Reclamation to be thinking about that can come back from the graveyard. Now I will hold this for bluff value. I think the Monastery Swift Spear is better on D than on offense. For right now. I don't want to trade it with the Strix. Oh, that's brutal. That gets around Eidolon. Yeah. Now my opponent can Savine's Reclamation or not. So, hard cast Force of Will. So something else that my opponent could be doing that they're not doing is they could have been attacking in with Recruiter of the Guard in previous turns so that they could flashback Savine's Reclamation, bringing back Meddling Mage and Recruiter of the Guard. Recruiter of the Guard goes and gets something like a Soul Hoarder, and then that sets up the life gain loop. Alright. So if opponent goes all in here, I'm dead. I guess opponent doesn't even have to go all in, right? They attack with 3 2/2s and the Baleful Strix, and then that's 5. They figured it out. I would like Searing Blood. I think I want these persistent sources of damage that shut off life gain. My opponent mostly played around Price of Progress that game, and so maybe I board this out. On the play, my creatures are reasonable. On the draw, I think the 1-drops become considerably worse, and I should start thinking more about, like, Pyrostatic Pillars and Smash to Smithereens. Smash to Smithereens also hits Baleful Strix in addition to Ether Vial. I think I like something like this. And then on the draw, I'll think about removing the 3 Swift Spears. Four, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 points of burn. No persistent points of damage. I would keep this as a 6-card hand. On the play, though, do I need to leverage either a permanent source of damage or a creature? Probably. Get this. Yes. I think I still pitch a land here. Like, it's possible that turn 3 Sulfuric Vortex is powerful enough against this deck where I just keep my land and toss a Lava Spike, but playing to a world where I draw a land in a reasonable fashion is probably fine. Alright. Force pitching a Meddling Mage. Alright. Well, let's draw that land next turn. And I think this is a game where I don't get to mess with my opponent's creatures. I think I'm just going Dome. I get super punished if I don't draw a land, though, in a timely fashion. Sulfuric Vortex would be the god tier blind name. It wrecked Meddling Mage. I think I just do this now. Like, there's waiting starts to bring things like Charming Prince into the equation that I don't really want to deal with. But I have, like, 2 Sulfuric Vortexes in my deck. I have both in hand. You know, take that 3 life gain now. Or you're gonna blink Recruiter and go for value. Land, 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 land. Oh, they are going for value. Oh, they have another Charming Prince. Oh god, this is so good if I find the land here. That is not a land. I mean, I'll play it. This is not great for me. My opponent is getting to the stage of the game where they get to do what they want, and I don't get to do what I want. Ah, shit. Alright, I just need to rip a land. That's all there is about this. I need to rip the land, resolve the Sulfuric Vortex, and stop this life gain shenanigans before my opponent spirals out of control. I think I can just play... I think if I can just play a Sulfuric Vortex followed by another Sulfuric Vortex, this is still good enough to get a win. But my opponent gaining another 3 life this turn is pretty backbreaking. My opponent also just has another Charming Prince in hand as well. Cool, cool. Can't even just, like, point that at a creature to get things gone. I think this is probably officially the point where I'm done. Yeah. So, if I kept the initial land from the opening hand, I might have won this game. But I just physically don't think I come back from this board. Like, there's just too many creatures here. My opponent has too much utility. I'll play it out, I guess, because it's not going to take very many turns for my opponent to kill me. Yeah, they put it on 3 for Sulfuric Vortex. Alright, I consider that more or less the effective kill. I was hoping they would put it on 1. Yeah, maybe the Sulfuric Vortex is just so important in this matchup that, like, I have to keep the 3rd land, despite the fact that it decreases the amount of explicit value that I have in my hand. That's something, like, I don't have the heuristics for. I have never played the Burn versus Esper Vial matchup before. Alright, overall thoughts on the deck list. I, generally speaking, really liked the Game 1 configuration. It felt very smooth. We're not running into Wastelands or Stifles. We didn't get cute with our mana base. We didn't play any of the cycling lands or anything of that general nature that could be wastelanded. It just felt solid. The price of progress ranged from insane to, that was 2 points of damage, which is what we knew what would happen with it. But specifically in that match versus Goblins, for example, the fact that it did 6 damage for a single card was absolutely critical to our success. Overall, I liked my sideboard. I felt like I had nice options in all of my rounds, although I don't feel like I am a master of burn sideboarding. There's a lot of things to be thinking about, like play versus draw. How much stuff do you intend on ignoring? How much stuff do you actually want to sideboard? But I liked the effects that I had access to. I do think we got a little bit of a rough set of matchups tonight. Yeah, we faced a good amount of game one life gain. Um, Overall, I don't think Burn is a particularly potent deck in the metagame right now because of that game one life gain stuff. Uro is one of the most popular cards in the format. And even if you are doing some things to like try to beat Uro, even if you're doing that in game one, a lot of times like that sort of thing is just going to overpower you. The things like Uro and Charming Prince, the Stoneforge Mystic package. I think there's enough main deck life gain floating around the format that like this wouldn't be one of my top choices of decks. But if you are a burn player, I I don't think you necessarily have to like throw down your deck and say like it's impossible, I can't do anything. I think if you're playing 3 or 4 like Roiling Vortex, Sulfuric Vortex type cards in the 75, you can at least like give it a reasonable shot. Um, Something I would be thinking about moving forward if I was going to play more burn though would be to do a sideboard map specifically that has like on the play, on the draw configurations, because a lot of your cards, especially your creatures, when you're on the draw, lose some oomph. And so you want to make sure you have enough good generic cards that you can both sideboard out cards that might be weak, like Price of Progress, while also like adjusting numbers on something like Monastery Swiftspear if that's something you need to do. All right, I hope this league showed you that Burn is not just like a simple and easy deck. There are a lot of really complicated decisions that have to do with like whether you're playing a control role or an aggro role, how quickly is this game going to progress. This was a really interesting league, and I enjoyed playing it a lot. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Have a great rest of the day.